How you doing, YouTube? It's Jesse here. Just going to give you a little update on my Ford Bronco 1991. I've been kind of dealing with a few issues. Specifically, I've had a code 33, which is the EGR position not detected. Along with a right sign lean condition, and I've been trying to figure this out for a little while. So I've gotten obviously some manuals. And I've done a little troubleshooting and testing and things like that. But like with all Fords and a lot of the older Fords, there tends to be cascading problems that are not just a one part fix. Especially when you have one of these older vehicles, there could be several things that are wrong. One thing I did change was the computer recently, is because the capacitors had burnt out a little bit, and now that has not solved my 33 fault, and I didn't think it would, obviously, because I had other issues such as the idle fluctuations that were going up and down. Sometimes it would be good, sometimes it wouldn't. Of course, you know, I had already gone through the fuel system. The motor was rebuilt. I had a brand new. It was probably the last OEM Ford throttle body that was available, and I purchased that, and it was brand new. So I knew the problem wasn't really associated with anything there. Everything is motorcraft parts. So, but I did know that there was other issues. So anyways, I had a problem with the EGR. I had a code 33. It's been pretty consistent since I got the car, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to take a look at what's going on here. So the first thing I did was I used my Rotunda book here. I happen to have a lot of equipment now to do some monitoring and some checks on the actual piece of equipment. And this manual, even though it's not for my truck, has a lot of the similar information that you would actually get from the Ford manuals for when it comes to the parts that I'm trying to diagnose. So in this case, I utilize this particular manual to give me a little bit of information specifically on the EGR and its operation, and the sensors and how to test them. So with regards to that, obviously I went to the actual EGR system, and you have the EVM, which is an actual, it's kind of not a thermistor, but it's a resistor, and it will adjust its voltage based upon the position of that EGR. So, but in order to get a position on the EGR has to work. So obviously I had to check the EGR, and the EGR happened to work, as you've seen in my last video. And as a result, I knew the EGR was not at fault. And in addition, when I did a few other checks, I had verified that the actual EVM was actually working. It's because it was providing me a voltage, and as I varied the position of the pintle, it would provide me voltage. So something wasn't working. Obviously, the EGR was not actually being actuated one way or another. So that just led me to the vacuum system. So the vacuum system, I had replaced all of the hoses. The plastic hoses are often culprits, or they're broken somewhere around the solenoids. So in this case, I did not have any issues with my vacuum tubes, but what this had led me down the road was this particular part right here. So this is the EGR regulator. Okay, now this is a solenoid, and it works very much like other solenoids. However, the testing of it's a little bit different, is because although these two pieces on the bottom, you would think it holds vacuum. Well, in fact, these two actually regulate the vacuum. So there's not a complete way to test this just with a vacuum gauge. In addition, you have the solenoid, which will actually move up and down, and which will block the, block or reduce the amount of vacuum that's going in there. So I had pulled a couple from the junkyard from a newer vehicle, and I just kind of modified it, as you can see this one right here, thinking that, you know what, it's a Ford part, it's probably very similar, it'd probably work. Well, in fact, it did not work, unfortunately. I took two of them from the junkyard just to check it out, and figured maybe I could solve this problem for $5. But instead, it kind of broke down because I knew the solenoid wasn't working on this. I had tried to test it, and the way that you can test these solenoids while it's actually running is to take not the part that is supplying 12 volts, which is on the right side where this detent is, but to the left side, and you ground it. And as you ground it, you'll actually hear the solenoid click, and then you'll see that the actual idle of the engine will vary because of the vacuum that's being supplied to the EGR. So that is a way that you can actually test it. That's a kind of a quick way of testing it. And if you don't get that, you may have this this part at fault. Now, what did I do? I bought an OEM part. I don't trust any of the standard parts that you get from BWD or any of the other ones. So I found one online and I got an actual OEM Ford part. And sure enough, I put it in there, plugged it in, and hooked up the vacuum, and I took it for a test drive, and the actual code 33 went away. All right, now I still have the lean code for the right side for the oxygen sensor, which I'll definitely figure out. But I am finally over the 33 fault. So if you have this fault, if you have a 33 fault and it's pesky and it seems to not go away, and you've replaced the EGR, you replaced the EVM, which I'm glad I didn't, because they're not very cheap. And then getting that actual metal line for the EGR from the intake is a bear to get, even though I replaced it a long time ago when I replaced the motor. But anyways, I don't want you going through that hassle, knowing that this part may be faulty. And you're talking about a $25 part if you're not going to get OEM, and if you get an OEM part, you're looking at probably about $40 to $50. So I hope this helps. Here is the part number. If you are looking for one that's OEM, it's a FOTE A1A. And then it looks like it's a 9J459. So that's what came off of this, and it's actually made in Canada, and it worked. So I hope this helps someone. If you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up. If you have any questions, feel free to leave your comments below, and I'll let you know what I can tell you. Okay? Have a great night. Bye.